Great peace, great peace, great peace, great peace, Yakoki. So it's simple, right? It's very simple. Instead of trying to join a tribe and get tribal enrollment and to get recognition from a tribe or some type of resource, be it housing, be it the monthly check, be it healthcare. Think about other ways where you can use your mind and create what they've already created, right? I see many ways where we can do things that can benefit us, that could strictly benefit us. This is a card that I made. That's my real picture. This is a card that I made using AI. That's my real name, Wawa Yaku. Wawa Yuku. Wawa Yuku. That's my real name. When I look at these $5 Indians, right? I look at them and these are people who sit on federal land getting subsidies and proclaiming that they are Indian. This is what I have to say about that. I'll be very quick, right? I wanna like sum it up so people could really understand what they need to do if they really want to be on par with what the other organizations and the other tribes are doing. The other councils. They only exploit the fact that you're stateless as an African American. That's all they do, right? Their whole jest is to say that you weren't in an area where they're occupying. Because everybody is rushing to get services from the BIA, the Bureau of Indian Affairs. They're rushing. So imagine if everybody just happens to get a tribe and black people are the only people who don't get tribes, which they can do on their own without the federal government like I just did, right? You can put together your own money. We're the people who created Black Wall Street, right? We're the people who created Black Wall Street. The only reason that they have these organizations, these councils, these tribes, is so when you come into the area and they've never seen you before, right? They can pull rank. They don't want you using a fishery. They don't want you using a post. They don't want you using a store. They don't want you using a street. They don't want you living in a neighborhood. They don't want you using a lake. They don't want you using a sea, a river. They call the police and say he's not enrolled here. They call the police and say she's not enrolled here. This is how you stop all of that. You can start your own services. Like, okay, who has this amount of blood? Who has that amount of blood? And who has this amount of blood? My genetic match to the surnine, a Pacific trait, right? We all share melanin. My genetic match to the surnine It's under 5. That's very, very extremely close. Meaning I have distant cousins who sit on the land of Suriname. I can create something like this outside the jurisdiction and use it in a place like where I'm at right now in the United States. Of course, I wouldn't use this in Suriname because their politics is more aligned with human rights. They give you the right to a name. They give you the right to a nationality. They give you a right to live. Unlike the United States. I have a genetic match. I have an archaeology ID. Not this type of ID, but an ID reference number that says who I am on that specific genetic match. Using saliva. You can say, oh, this is the amount of DNA you have to these people. This is the amount of DNA you have to these people. This is the amount of DNA you have to these people. Fill out this application. They fill out the application, right? You do their genetic test, right? You do their saliva test. You're doing this. You've decided for your particular tribe, you can take people's DNA to find out who they are. Doesn't matter what people set in this place or that place. Doesn't matter what people set, right? You're just going off the strict precaution, right? This person has melanin. You're going off the strict precaution that this person has melanin. Oh, either this person is 1% this or 1% that, right? As long as they're American, as long as they're African, right? And you can make the strict calls. Oh, this person has to show that they're maroon. They show that they're maroon in their DNA test. They got a close genetic match under 5. That's a regulation. That's a regulation. You can use that and put them a part of your council, put them a part of your tribe, put them a part of your organization. The United States can't tell you, you can't do this, you can't do that, you can't, You're doing this by strict ideal of self-determination. You can do that. You can choose the type of money you want to barter in because you have a right to self-determination. Like literally, I can take this ID, which I did. I put it on a PVC and I made a hologram so it can look exactly like it should. Authentic. I'm going to wear this around my neck. Okay? It has a back with the matching, the different design, same color design with the corners and stuff like that. No picture on the back, though. I'm not going to show the back. Well, maybe I should. That's the back. I'm going to wear this around my neck. And it's obvious that you should wear things like this around your neck, especially if you're someone who's very serious about who you are and you're not a person that's very talkative. Say if you're on a job or something like that, you want to wear this around your neck. it can strike a conversation. You have to be intelligent about your moves. You can print IDs, which we saw NAAIP, I do. They did the same thing I just did, except it wasn't as strategic, right? It wasn't as strategic. They did the same thing I did. And they took enrollments, right? They made people write down their names. It's basically like a Dawes roll. That's what they did, right? And if anybody don't know who the NAAIPI is, that is an organization that was headed by Hemok Shelop. He was going around basically trying to get people to produce colored birth certificates from their grandparents. And a lot of people did, maybe so, maybe not. And he promised to get reparations for those people. And the reparations was not carried through. But it's simple, right? These are things you can do in order to start something. I wouldn't necessarily do it to get paid, which a lot of people have done, pushing paperwork. He got paid. That was his intention, to get paid. To say that he was, and that we were Indians. This is just one simple way of doing it. Make it authentic. Some people may say, you sure those people, or, those people on that line will want you using their tribal affiliation or their clan, their lineage, their territory? If you can prove that you have ancestry, or you can prove that you have biometrics with a particular clan, right? It shouldn't be an issue. It shouldn't be an issue, and especially if you're practicing it outside the jurisdiction of that particular area or that territory. It shouldn't be an issue. And especially if you're acknowledging the fact that this is not a state-issued identification document. It's basically something that you would wear to a ceremony, to get into a building, or, you can be more elaborate, right? You could be using it for people to come along, right? Do the same thing that you did, right? They follow your protocol, right? They follow your instruction, make sure that they pay, right? Add a tithe, add a tax, add a tariff, add a donation, add a zakat, as they say in Islam, right? Zakat. And then you all move into a territorial area and do the same thing that these other tribes are doing, right? Who are really not supposed to be on the land. They just talk among each other. This is why they're able to get away with things. And this is why they were able to get tribal councils. They were all able to get tribe councils. Navajo, Monacan, Pequot, Narragansett, Seminole, all these little tribal governments. That's what they did. So It's no need to be confused. You know, you can do the same thing, man. Like, learn how to use AI. Learn how to code. Once you learn how to do those two things, you good to go. You good to go. Great peace, Yakoki.